Meyer gave us. With the pension fund at $1,805,359 and the fire pension fund at $1,102,158. Can I have a vote in the favor of going with that recommendation?
I'm sorry, would that be those numbers blocked or?
Yes.
Yes, that's what we're voting on now.
So
Those two numbers blocked.
What would be, is there a second proposal?
Well, then it would be
Or recommendation, rather?
It would be to increase it, and we'd have to come up with an amount.
Well, the other option would be not to lock these numbers.
Just right there.
And so that if we get less of a lower levy from the state, then there will be lower amount going to the police and fire funds. That's
what's been happening every year.
Was to fund police and fire
So the
on
whole,
pension fund level.
I think
there's three options. We have
the
to
whole
define
would
it,
be
yeah.
for a recommendation with a lock and a recommendation without the lock.
Unless you want to-
Or could there be one where we fund it at the level the police and fire pension board recommends, or the attorney recommended? The 2 I think it's the 2.183 and then the 1.496.
And how would be on the one that the state is
The state
required?
would be,
So, well, I mean, it's either A, B, or C, you know, and I would prefer B, the middle.
If it's just gonna take us longer, ask for a quote for all three, Chairman. All with the lock.
All right, let's try this. Which out of the three would you want to go with? Alderman Foster.
Sure, I think what I would, I would love to fully fund these, but I think what I would like to see happen is, we're not that far away from your recommendation with the police and what the state is recommending. It looks like a $3,000 difference. If I'm correct, you said
Yes.
1,805,000 and some change, and the state is 1.8. I would recommend we just at least switch that one to the state recommendation. $3,000.
Our pension board wants another $1 million.
Well, that's the pension recommendation. You know, what we're bound, what we'll be bound by is the state ultimately. That's tough.
There's no way to find out what the state number is.
We need to find that out. I didn't have that information available.
Do you know?
I'm trying. It's like 1.3 something. I know like the actuator was 1.496. Last year we got 1 point something. What was it? 1.03.
Yeah.
We ended up 105 in the hole over the year, and we still made 6.1% on our investments. So,
right.
You know, we're 0.9% off. That's probably the $100,000, but we're falling short every year. You know, and we went down again this year in our funding levels, so that was rough. The attorneys auto replied, "He's driving," so.
Pull over.
Yeah.
Treasurer Bellata.
Again, I'd ask Mr. Meyer to clarify. There's the actuarial foster, which police is.
That's great. But I'm just
Their actuarial says 2.1 is what they want. State is 1.903 or whatever it is.
1808, according to this paper that you provided me today. 1,808,000. 1,800
That's the
and
Department
1,808,215.
of Insurance.
Yes, that's the Illinois Department of Insurance.
Minimal requirement from the other 1.9 something.
Oh, 1,982,000.
That's one that, I'm assuming the state has come up with a separate actuarial that they're using. The insurance is a separate thing. There's the high end of 2.1, which is the foster and foster independent rehire. Then the 1.9, whatever it is, that the state comes up with their actuary. And what they're doing, they're lowering it just to give you more breathing room, but they're still kicking it down the road. Okay, so then there's no, but the Department of Insurance is at 1.88 or whatever, and then there's Mr. Meyer, which figured out was 1.4 1.85 or whatever it is. So technically, I think the consensus here, you like to know 2.1 is the dream, 1.9, or where it's at, what Mr. Meyer initially presented on the, so there's three choices. For the police, for the fire, it's 1.4, 1.3, or 1.1. I'm just rounding those numbers off. So,
1.4 is the state, or what?
1.9 is the state, correct?
For police.
For police?
We don't know the amount for fire.
What did you say the fire?
We don't have the same, I'm looking at a page that was provided by the actuaries that sort of compare the different annual requirements. And one is calculated by the Illinois Department of Insurance. That's who looks at the pension funds. They do all different analysis on them, et cetera, and they have an actuarial calculation that they came up with, 1,808,000. That's the 1,808,000 they came up with. And then the Foster & Foster has two amounts listed. One's their recommended, which is the 2,183,000. And then they also list a statutory municipal contribution of 1,982,000. So there's three amounts that they list out on this one sheet of paper. We don't have the fire's sheet of paper. We tried to obtain it, but we were unable to get a copy of it.
Alderman Carr?
Treasurer Blount, did you say that we hired Foster & Foster?
the police pension boards hired.
Okay.
We made a recommendation 2 or 3 years ago when we first came in to have an independent actuarial. And Foster & Foster was recommended to the police and fire. They decided to go with them because before they used to choose their own. So it's a very reputable firm using whatever more reputable numbers, I guess.
I also just want to state, unless the law has changed, just because you can request the cap, I'm not in favor of any cap. You're going to go with A, B, or C, just take the lock out of it, because they don't have to listen to you at all. They can just say, we're cutting it across the board. They don't have to listen to you. Correct?
This is just a
Are you talking about the
suggestion?
county?
Yeah, let's say if we're going to ask for 4.9 across the board, but if you're going to cut, leave the two pension funds alone.
Yes.
They don't have to honor our.
Yes, they do.
They have to.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they give you an edit report, and then they ask you what, you can make changes at that point.
Because I was in an experience where they did it when we did something similar at a different board. So they just ran through and said, we just cut it across the board.
Well, they probably didn't respond to the county and say, hey, this is what we want you to do. And again, it may be somebody said, oh, I want to increase. Oh, you can't increase, you can't go beyond what you asked for. That could have been the problem they ran
That's
into.
fine. Still, I'd like to keep it clean so it's all understandable. Take the locks out of it if you're A, B, or C, or not. It's Chairman, however you want to make it simple. I'm trying to make it simple for you, however you want to do it. The poll. The locks kind of confuse kind of things,
So you're all looking at me, right?
We're hoping to get that fire pension amount.
Okay, so I am polling the committee of the whole on their recommendation. And there's three choices, I guess. Is that what I'm doing? Okay. So.
Well, how about this? Why don't you, go through each scenario and say, who would vote for this?
Okay.
And then go to your next scenario and say, who would actually vote for this if this was if this was our decision?
What if they
And
all
then you
say
might-
they're going to vote for each one, Dave?
then you could present anything you want.
And we're politicians.
Okay, so we'll start with the first one, which is Mr. Meyer's recommendation with a lock. And I see a show of hands, I guess. So, great. Okay. And then the second one is
This is your
Mr.
decision.
Am I missing something? No? Okay, the second one is Mr. Meyer's recommendation without the lock. And then the third one would be the state's recommendation. Is that what we're going for?
We're doing Department of Insurance or what?
I was hoping one of the options is the foster and foster recommendation.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
And I don't care if there's lots.
that could be a fourth option.
I'm gonna go with what they mentioned at the meeting. I don't know about this other figure. So that's the one I analyzed, so.
Which figure is that?
The fire 1.34 and police 2.18.
Okay,
Foster and
first,
foster.
first let's start with the state, the recommendation of the state funding. Can I see a show of hands? Okay, and then the process.
That's with the 1.9, right, for police, the 1.3, for fire.
The 1.9 did not come from the state.
Oh.
That came from foster and foster.
I thought there was a
The
lower.
1.8 came from the State Department of Insurance. The State Department of Insurance does their own actuarial estimations based on the data that they have. They've got all the data on all the pension funds. Every single pension fund, police and fire, have to file annually with the Department of Insurance. And they've got all the data.
Where did the 2.1 come from then?
That comes from foster and foster. The 1.9 also came from foster and foster. They gave two numbers.
You say you're pulling for state?
I'm polling for the state right now. So we have Alderman Roscoe, is there, is he
They
in
don't feel bad that you're staying there the whole time.
That's okay. No, that's fine. I'm only giving a recommendation.
I know, but I still.
I want you to understand why. It's because the general fund is not in a position today in 2017 to afford to be able to give $600,000, forego $600,000 or less, some amount in the $500,000 to $600,000 range to forego that amount of revenue for the upcoming year. I don't think it's in that kind of position. That's my opinion. But this is a decision that I'm not on the board, and I can't make the decision. That's up to you. My recommendation is I wouldn't do it. But again, this is your vote.
Okay, the fourth poll would be for the foster recommendation.
Foster and foster.
1.9.
1.9.
No, 2.4.
Foster is 2.183.
Where's the 1.9 then?
Foster and Foster gave two figures. One is the 2.1 million, 2183, whatever that is, and the other one's the 1,982,000.
The one at the city council is the one that we all probably heard, the 2.18.
Yes.
Which.
You're exactly right. That's the one
It's
you
long
heard.
going out.
Right.
Yeah, so.
So,
If you want to read
Can I
this.
see that poll again?
restate it.
The
Yeah,
poll
restate
would
it,
be
please, those numbers.
for fosters, which is the 2,183,000 and the 1,982,000.
No.
No.
The,
One or the other.
the fire was 1,344,000, and the police was 2,184,000 or 183.
So the 1.9
That's
is
the second recommendation.
No.
Second,
That's 1.9
it's the second number from foster.
So what the amount everyone's talking about is the amount that was introduced at the last meeting by Foster and Foster, 2,183,000 change for the police,
police.
1,344,000 and change for the fire.
Okay, so,
That was their dream amount, if you will.
okay, so the poll would be for the foster for the 2,183,000, and for the police, it would be the, the fire would be the 1,000,000.
344.
Can I see a show of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess that's the one they want to go with. So, Carrie, is this a recommendation to City Council, and this has to be changed then, right?
I just would like to make an observation. The vote, the majority vote here, my numbers is $800,000 more than what is in this levy right now. If we just approved, or you're just suggesting I can say roughly 2.2 million and 1.4 million police and fire. That comes from 3.6 million. What's on the document that Dave gave us is
About-
about 2.9. Sorry. So I'm sorry, so it's $700,000.
600,000 to 700,000.
We just took $700,000 out of the city budget.
Right.
So you're aware of that.
So those will be the decisions you'll have to make later.
I understand. It could be less, yeah, less. Because I hate to have it.
No, I mean, gotcha. That's the last.
Those will be the decisions you'll have to make later on how you want to be able to fund things or cut, you know, and again, we haven't reached a decision on the water rate either, so.
But Mr. Meyer, it could also be higher too, could it not?
You know, I don't.
So I
Higher,
mean, he's saying
We're not talking anymore.
the amount of.
I don't think you mentioned it.
Okay, so, is that the recommendation?
Is this
Alderman
the,
Bier?
is this the lock, is this the locks, but not for the pension of the fire and police department? If we go with Foster and Bucker's recommendation.
if you go with the 2.1 and the 1.3 that you just said you would, I guess you still have to decide, and it doesn't have to, decision doesn't have to be made tonight, but let's say that this goes into the county and they start levying for this, then we're going to get, in about April roughly, you're going to get a levy edit report, and that's when you can make these changes. That's when you can decide to lock. Okay? So, again, when we talked about what we're going to do, we would have just automatically said we're going to lock those two. You don't have to lock these.
I didn't ask for lots.
Right.
So anything you heard from me, I never asked for lots. I just want to make that clear. I'm still in favor of this one, but it doesn't have to be locked. It'll be the same as the other.
It'll just get
Reduce
reduced,
it.
right, the same
Exactly.
percentage.
Keep it nice and clean. Keep it nice and
I
clean.
know we've been talking about the police and the fire, but I have just two things that I noticed on the cover sheet, is it? Alderman Johansson's name is still on it, and that needs to be removed. And then also on the section of the mayor's, I don't see a salary for the mayor's office. I don't see a salary for a full-time position. I would think that would be
Yeah, but that's 2017's appropriation.
appropriation for
Yeah,
the
that's
mayor.
last year.
Oh, okay.
This is not having anything to do with
All right.
Hires, you can get extra money to.
Alderman Carr?
We also
I don't want
need
to make
to,
your life more difficult, but where are you going to move it from? Where are you going to move the 700,000 from?
We'll allocate it. We'll
You just-
take most, you know, we'll take it away from some of the other areas that we increased.
Okay.
We moved some, again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think it was Alderman Donahue that mentioned how do we put, which lines do we increase or decrease from last year. We did that to try to keep the levies more in line with the actual expenses of those departments and who would use that money. And so, yeah, we can just go back to some of those and slash some of those a little bit.
Alderman Carr?
Alderman Johnson, if we take Jim Johansson's name off, we're going to put Bill Turnbull's name on.
They're pointing out this is actually last year's list because this is from last year's levy.
But this would be an ordinance that would be
Oh,
passed.
this would be the levy.
Oh, right here.
It needs to be added.
The numbers are based
Well, then all
on last
the
year's.
word identification
Yeah,
also.
right.
but on the back of the sheet, that's, whose name should be on it? Should it be Johansson's or ours,
No.
seeing that we're
Should
approving?
be
No, it's ours.
No,
Well, we
all
also-
all I was saying is that the numbers are based off of the appropriation that we passed last year in January, or this year in March, or whenever we passed it. So that's what the numbers are based off of. But everything else does need to be updated for the current council and all that stuff. But the numbers are based off of last year's appropriation that we are almost ending with. We're almost at the end of it, so.
Hey, before we walk out, I think we don't have to go that full amount, okay, just so you know that. I think you're putting your general fund in peril, okay, that's the way I see it.
I agree.
And the pension funds are gonna, if you do some good faith, they're not gonna, again, I can't speak for them. I'm just saying, you're doing the best you can. And if you increase it by some amount, it doesn't have to be that full amount. I'm just saying, the 600,000 to 700,000 or whatever it ends up being, 500,000, you're putting your general fund in a lot of jeopardy. That's my observation.
Would you like to take another poll?
But again, these will be the decisions you'll have to live with later. If you do this, then later on it'll be, well, we can't afford whatever it might be, or how are we gonna make payroll, or we're gonna have to, those will be the decisions you'll have to make.
I voted for your recommendation. Because I think that you have worked with these numbers and you know what's going to happen. You know, we're increasing this by quite a bit.
Right,
And I just,
if we drain the general fund, and then let's just say in the water fund, we have a couple of water main breaks, there's some emergency at the water tower, whatever it might be, where do we come up with the money? I don't know. But that's,
Come to attend, most of the aldermen are here tonight. Come for a vote.
yes.
I would just say, if we don't do anything different tonight, we do have the opportunity to vote on something. Well, there's several recommendations. They're going to city council. We're going to tell them which one most of the aldermen favored, but at city council, that's where we're going to make the decision. I would just hope we all think about this and come to a less expensive decision at city council.
Are we gonna do them all again?
Are we going to do this all again at city council?
If you want to,
I mean,
you can all
Some phone calls, then make phone calls.
get your pens and pencils out and figure it out. I mean, it's entirely up to you.
It might be nice to have a sheet at city council with these options
yeah.
clearly delineated.
well, the only two that went with any, I mean, the Foster was a big one, so we could do that separate. And then Dave's recommendation,
Put those two.
put those two on the city council floor.
I think they should include the state.
I'm sorry, what?
I think we should include the state recommendation too. It's the middle of the road. You know, you got people who want the very recommendation, which I think is good, and we certainly, you got more knowledge over these numbers than we do. But certainly, that middle road, is roughly about $340,000 added on, or that's allocated more to the pension. And of course, we'll have to get creative and see where that can get moved out of, but I think it's an easier pill to swallow, and we're showing good faith, and we're moving in the right direction.
So the recommendation of this committee of the whole is to put the free on city
Let
council.
me add one more thing then, just so we don't handcuff ourselves, because once we do that, it's too late. I mean, if we, you can always, let's say let's just say we go with my recommendation. Nothing is going to prohibit you from later on saying, hey, we got a little extra money in the general fund. Let's give that to the police and fire pension funds, rather than having it be an official county document where it's a legal thing. I mean, and there's other, I deal with other cities, and they do that from time to time. They'll say, hey, we've got an extra $175,000 in the general fund. Let's give that to the police pension fund.
That's what the.
Then you're not tying yourself to this.
Isn't that what Alderman Bellato said they did
Not
last year?
Alderman, treasurer.
Treasurer, I'm sorry.
2 years ago. 2 or 3 years
2
ago.
or 3 years ago.
Right, and that way, if you have the financial resources and the wherewithal, and you got them, and and you had a banner year, and you got all kinds of money laying around, then you could say, oh, let's do this, rather than it being an illegal, forced issue.
Alderman Dunn.
Chairman, how would voting work next week? Because you need 8 votes to pass an ordinance. So if we have 3, so say if we have 3 options on there and we all vote again along the same lines and it's 5-4-1, or say if, no, well, opposed, but let's say, but if we don't get the 8 though, what's the point of having the 3? Then it becomes nothing.
If what?
If we don't have, you need 8 votes to pass an ordinance. So if we do the same exercise again next week and it votes along the same lines almost, 5-4-1, or if George or whoever votes, it doesn't, isn't it futile to have the 3 options? Because we're not going to get to the 8, having 3 options, splitting the different.
You gotta get to 8 one way or the other, or you still have some play in your calendar. I mean, if you had to come back another time, you do have some movement. I know you don't want to, but.
Sure, no, I'm just thinking big picture where if we're just gonna have a futile exercise, we don't get to 8, so.
Do you have any suggestions? I don't know.
No, I'm not, I don't know. My suggestion would be to put the 2 out, the 2 that have the majority. And go for, I don't know, that's.
Alderman Slattery.
Again, because this will be benefiting me one day, I won't be voting, but my recommendation is, yes, the foster number is, like the treasurer said, it's a dream number, it's wonderful, you know, that bumps up everybody's pension percentage closer to that 90 eventually. At the same time, like Mr. Meyer said, if something happens, we're SOL, so. And I appreciate the recommendation as well, but I think what Alderman Frosco said, that middle line, easier to swallow, easier whatever, so that's, you know, it's only a couple thousand, you know, the police one's only $3,000 less than, you know, what the city is, you know, wanting to give, so I just, that's, like the mid, but I think would make everybody happy, would make, you know, the police and firemen say, hey, you guys are doing good, at least you're funding us. The residents would be, you know, not too unhappy with that little bump, and that, you know, we have money in the general fund.
That's the state number here, upside.
Yes,
Okay. So we have A, the one that was suggested,
the dream number, that's
the dream number by Foster, and then we have the state number, which is middle of the line, correct? And then the one that, Dave, right?
Okay, you know, can I put Alderman Holly on the spot? I mean, why not? You know,
Go ahead.
because you are well versed in this area. What do you think is, I mean, what should we do?
For next Tuesday? I mean, I think I'd like to, I was gonna suggest that we work up a couple numbers so that people have an idea of what it's actually going to affect on the general fund, as far as if certain scenarios play out. Because I'm not sure if my numbers are correct, I just did super quick calculations, but if we go with the state numbers, if we're giving like our entire levy increase plus some, I think, if I calculated it right, but I'm not sure. That's why I'd like to sit down and maybe come up with something to mail it out to people, so that they have a clearer understanding.
Treasurer Bellotto.
Proper form is here. Proper form is here. Consultant is hired. He can adjust, he can communicate with you. I think we all have to put our faith in. Otherwise, everybody can have an input like you're having input here right now.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to have 14 different aldermen calling Mr. Meyer, I think we should do this, I think we should do that. Open meeting discussion, narrow it down, allow him to work up some numbers and find out exactly what it's on. He'll try to get back to you with some.
Yeah, we'll have to make some assumptions, you know, and just based on best guess, we're gonna get, just say like
It's limited.
3.5%. that'll just be the number I go with, okay? And then we'll see the actual dollars. If we do this, we do that, we do that.
Exactly. How about, I got,
And again, if we just go with what I have and you choose later on, we've got plenty of resources. Let's take that tax money and give it to the pension fund, but not paint ourselves into a corner. It just seems to make so much more sense, to me anyway, as a finance person, rather than making a commitment that you cannot rescind later.
I think the statement I'll make that is, if we make that decision here, that money gets locked and it goes to where it's supposed to go. If we say, hypothetically, hey, we got some money, guess who's not deciding where that money goes?
Yep.
That's the difference.
Well,
Right.
you're right, but I mean,
They can, yeah, we can say tonight, everybody can say tonight, we pledge to do that, but you don't know, you
Yep.
know?
Right.
This is where we come in and we say, this is where you're gonna go.
Yes.
but you have to be able to run the city, and if you don't have any money, then what?
We can go there. I think.
You know, we're
Never
But that's what
enough
got us in this safe spot to begin with.
Yeah, you can make that argument, yeah, absolutely. We can, the chair, so I'll just make one last comment, we can sit here for hours going in circles, you know. You kind of got to pull, but people are sitting at, and I know Treasurer Pilata mentioned that forum here, we're all here at the table, but realistically, what are you gonna say, Dave, you know, go sit down for 4 hours and figure out where you can move these numbers and do some recommendations. That takes a little bit of time for those numbers to get moved around and then come back to us and say, hey, here's some of the scenarios, we understand the feedback from the council that you want to put more money into the pensions and be, you know, honor your pledge to fully fund this by 2040. You know, that, I think that's what has to happen, you know, and then that gives us between now and Friday, and then obviously there's a decision to be made what gets put on the agenda, you know?
All I was trying to say, Alderman, is basically this, Mr. Meyer, right now, he's projected this. I think he's already, if he's planning on moving anything around, he probably already knows that he's gotta move certain areas. It's limited to what you can move.
Sure.
So, it may take him an hour, it may take him a half an hour. And he can be back in what proposal I would imagine. But then there has to be, yeah,
Another meeting.
or else have it, that's out of my realm. I'm not the legal expert. Excellent, that's it.
Clerk Weiser?
I did want to say, I mean, you have two big extremes here that they're talking about. You could say 100,000 over Dave's and still do that more out of good faith, like you're trying to do, instead of locking into 600. That's another option.
Mayor Vargas?
What about if you, again, a suggestion, what Mr. Meyer has suggested versus, what is it, the next one, is something in between both of those? A little bit above his suggestion and below the state that you're recommending right now. Again, good faith effort, whether you lock it in to guarantee that it's going there, and then if you got extra money, you can put it on. If you lock it in between your suggestion and the next one, up or down.
Mr. Meyer, you have on this last page the grand total amounts to be included in the levies. On all the other pages, you have amount payable from other sources. So what's the total for the year that is payable from other sources in the city? Like, just in the planning department. The appropriation is $267,000, it says amount payable from other sources, $251,000, and amount from the levy, $16,000. So, in the city's overall appropriations, how much is payable from another source?
I don't have that calculation. I'd have to get back to you on that. Okay. I don't think the whole appropriations ordinance summation is here. If it were, we could go page by page and add it up. I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't know that off the top of my head.
I'm just trying to figure out what percentage of our budget relies on the tax levy.
I see where you're going.
Yeah.
It's quite a big percent.
If it's if it's only like 10% of the city's budget, then,
No, it's much
Well, it's
larger.
way more than that.
is it?
Yeah, half-ish, something.
Yeah, it's like 50, right?
Well, if the budget is, for this general office, or for all of them, 2 million, right, or something?
Well, a lot of the appropriations ordinance also dealt with the water fund, so they're not using tax dollars. So you'd have to really focus on which ones use tax dollars only, and I can get back to you with that.
That's okay.
Alderman
And
Farrell?
just clarify one thing, we talked about the 2016 levy was 1.75 million for the, we're talking about the police and fire, and 1.57 for fire, excuse me, 1.75 million for police, and 1.57 million for fire. And the final extension, we're just trying to understand, was the final extension number for fire 1.037 million or 1.37 million?
1.0.
1.0.
Yeah, and that was the levy request. Here, I'll get you those numbers again. Fire pension, what you approved last year, 1,1057, so 1,057,000.
That's
Yeah.
right, okay, that's what, gotcha, thank you. That helps. Yeah.
For fire, it's 10.
1.057.
1,057,768.
Gotcha.
That's what you approved
That
last
makes
year.
sense. Thank you.
And the police was 1,745,597.
Okay, so, back to the drawing board. Is it the recommendation to send 3 recommendations to city council for a vote, or 2? So we're down to 2. We're going down to the state and Mr. Meyer, correct?
Oh, I thought it was Foster.
No, the what?
So the state and Foster?
No, what you talked about was the one I came up with,
Yes.
and the one Foster came up with.
Correct.
What about the state then?
You didn't ask for the state.
Too many choices. I think Fred's right.
And again, you can go anywhere in between, though. You don't have to lock yourself into what Foster said. You don't have to lock into what I said. You can go, so, like the mayor said, you go somewhere in between as well. It doesn't have to be these hard and fast numbers. But at some point, you have to have at least a majority to agree on a set of numbers that we're going to submit to the county. Do you need me to work up any kind of numbers? Or is this clear enough as it is?
Alderman Downey?
Could you, thank you, Chairman, could you provide, I guess with the Foster and Foster, what the numbers will look like with the cuts, the $700,000 cuts to the other parts? 600, whatever.
Right, whatever the difference is, yes.
Whatever the difference is, can you just provide us with that? Because I saw you had it on here, you have the new ones on here, but you just put right next to it what those numbers would then be if we went with the Foster and Foster option. So then we'll have your recommendation, and then we'll have the other recommendation with the Foster and Foster numbers, with the 600,000, whatever the number is, if that's possible.
Yeah, so just have them side by side.
Yeah, and just.
And even have a difference column to say, here's what we changed it by.
Yeah, I think if that's consensus. Mr. Myers' recommendation and the Foster recommendation. I will take the chairman for guidance.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said I'm looking to you for guidance if we're going to use those as the two recommendations.
You looking to me for
Okay.
recommendation?
Look for guidance, you're the chairman,
Oh,
so.
okay. That's why I'm inviting you to give me guidance.
And we provided guidance, so now I'm looking to our leader
Yeah, great.
to provide,
Okay.
So you've got the dream number, the 2 million number, the 700,000 possibly number, and the swallowable, I don't even know what's the word, reality, of Mr. Myers' recommendation. And I think if you broke it down in like a nice little packet for city council, the gentlemen that aren't here and maybe any residents or whatever, then, you know, it's easier to make a decision.
Did you talk to any of the fire or police?
I did not. Yeah, we have a fire here.
And please.
And the police.
Alderman Bellato.
Maybe, I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
If they want to speak on it or not.
Didn't he just talk? I thought
I don't mind. You can ask whatever you like. Like I said, last year we lost $105,000. So, and our money made in the markets was 6.1%. So that's a really, really good number. I mean, if you look over the 5 years, we're right around 5.1. So last year was a much better year than previous years. With the fire, because we're so small, we were not able to go into risky markets as much as like the police can, because their pension is much bigger. So we stay in a lot of bonds and low risk investments, so that we don't lose any money. But we need to see something, because it just kept going down and down and down. I mean, I think last year was 26% funded, now we're 24%. You know, when I first started in 1999, I think it was 41%, so it's just gone down and down. And you gotta stop doing that. We're paying a lot of pensions now, and, you know, with $105,000 loss last year, we need to find a way to make up at least that amount. You guys levied for 1.003 last year, was it? Something like that, or 1.057, yeah. So there's a shortfall there. We recommended, well, Foster recommended 1.4 roughly, and he recommended 1.1, is that roughly right? Yep. So if you're 1.225, you know, find somewhere in the middle where we're getting a little bit of something, you're not killing your budget, we're actually making a step forward and adding to the fund so that we can put more money in the markets and hopefully make more money with the way the market is right now. You know, I can't tell you, like, the last 2 quarters have been really, really, really good. We won't have the numbers on this year until next year, but we have done a much better job.
Yeah, you're over 5 million, or you're right around that 5 million mark, right? So once you get over 5 million, that opens you up to more, the capability of doing more investments.
And the other thing is too, is like we were short-staffed for a little bit, you know, and a lot of rotating people. Now we got people coming on board and they're paying their portion. What really needs to happen is downstate, they need to increase our amount that we contribute. You know, we get 9.375 right now. Probably needs to be about 10.125, somewhere around there. And that would offset some of the losses too, and help out. But that's not good.
Alderman Donahue. Oh, I'm sorry, are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Alderman Donahue, I did make a recommendation. I recommended in my poll that we go with Mr. Myers' recommendation, because he's a CPA, we hired him for that job. I mean, the only other CPA sitting here is Tom. I think Foster and Foster, like Alicia or Alderman Slattery said, is a dream. You know, I mean, we're really putting ourselves in, I think, dire straits going with that one. So.
I'm going to echo Attorney Horvath's statement. I think you should make a recommendation that can be swallowed by the entire council or majority. Otherwise, you're going to have no tax levy by the end of the month. So, Chairman, I request that we hammer this out somehow really quickly tonight with some kind of option, because you're not going to have a tax levy at all if nobody wants, including the attorney, because he's going to have to go downstate. So.
Okay. So let's go, hammer it out.
I heard from the police, the fire, is there anybody from the police that wants to discuss anything? I don't know, I don't put you on the spot, if you don't, you don't. But I kinda like what the fire department said.
At the last finance meeting, Alicia's husband spoke up. Yeah, apparently he's on the fire or the police pension board. He said that the police pension board, I mean, he didn't put a number out there, he just said that they were willing to work with the city. So he was aware apparently of what the foster and foster number was going to be, or the two numbers they were going to present. That's about all he said. I think his name is Jason? Jason? Jason Slattery. But that's all I can tell you. He's not here this evening to speak for himself.
I had a similar conversation with Jason and,
I can't really speak for him, you know, sometimes I do. But again, I'm also in law enforcement, and I have a much different 100% funded pension, but that's another time. I schlepped, I work for the sheriff's department, so we're actually 100% funded, so. I think the recommendation, like I said, the dream one, that's like wonderful, it's great, you know, makes everybody happy with collecting pensions. I'll give you a little side story. In 2009, the city did not get their tax anticipation from the county. They couldn't make payroll. So between the police, and I don't know if the fire did it, the police union worked with the city, and Commander Sisk and maybe Chief can attest to this, agreed to have paychecks. A $650 paycheck, when you have a family of four, there was only 4 of us at the time, and I wasn't working my full-time job. A little hard. Yes, they got their money back in December when the warrant came in, but I feel like, and I really appreciate everybody wanting to give the dream number. I don't think that would happen again. You know, you're not going to get firemen, you're not going to pay the police, you know, public works isn't going to get paid, or they're going to agree to stuff like that. I really, you know, like I said, I appreciate that dream number, that 2 million, not, you know, 1.4 for the fire, but I just think what Mr. Meyer says is, you know, easier to, you know, go with, especially if something happens.
And what are you gonna do next year? If you give the 2.1 this year, and then we find out we can't make payroll, and what are we gonna do next year when the same topic comes up, and you're gonna go, well, we can't go 2.1, we're gonna have to go back down to 1,100,000. We're gonna cut $1 million next year, because we made a big mistake last year, and we didn't see this all the way through. What's the pension fund gonna say? I mean, we're on a steadily increasing, we've been increasing it every year. Yes, it's not the dream amount, I get it, but we have been increasing it. We keep doing that, and again, if we had extra money laying around, that's gonna be up to you to make that extra payment. I'm just saying, we're painting ourselves into a corner here that 1 year from now, or 2 years from now, when we're on the second year, and now our tax anticipation will go to $2 million a year because we're trying to fund the pension funds. We're going down a rough road.
Alderman Donahue.
Dave, thank you. What if we kept, so is the pension portion of this, is that included in the 4.99%?
Yes.
Okay. How much of a percentage is that? Of that?
I'm not sure I'm following the question, but we took the total extension, including pension funds from last year, general fund portion, all these different levies, we added them together, and then we added the 4.99% on top of that. And then we said, okay, can we give the police and fire a little bit more than 4 Yeah, okay, we went like closer to 6% for them.
Okay. How much, so with this year, how much is the city, how much are we gonna lose, or are we gonna come ahead at the end of our calendar year, fiscal year, come December 31st? Where are we gonna be money-wise with the tax anticipation warrant, which we'll pay back whenever we get our money.
Right, right.
Where are we gonna be December 31st, cash-wise? Or money-wise, are we gonna be in the red a lot, are we gonna be black, are we gonna be right around zero? Are we gonna be-
We're gonna be just above zero, yes.
So,
Not
so if we're gonna be
any
just above
amazing
zero,
amounts.
why can't we just keep the levy flat? Why do we have to raise it to 5%? Why can't we just put the levy portion towards the pension and keep everything else the same? If we're gonna come ahead, not ahead, but we're gonna be right around in the middle.
Well, I was hoping that last year's levy would have put us ahead, but it didn't because we gave more, we actually lost money on last year's levy. So we're trying to get back to where we would have been had we collected the full amount last year. So that was sort of the thought process here was, yes, give the pension fund something, but make sure the general fund increases. We want to try to reduce this reliance on tax anticipation warrants at some point, but we're not going to get there certainly within the next couple of years if we don't pass a water rate increase, we don't do some of the other fees, we don't find other places to cut. It's just not going to happen.
So where will we be if we just kept the levy flat? We did the same levy as we did this past year. And we didn't, we never raised more money.
Well, it's going to result in,
what would the loss be there? What's giving, so if we gave, so say if we did.
no, I'm following you, I just
We say
have
if we
to
did
look up.
your pension recommendation, or we kept the levy flat, where would we be? If that makes sense, I don't know.
Well, I mean, we want to do an increase, no matter.
So, but what if we just do an increase just for the pensions, and everything else stays the same? Where would we be then?
The levy is 6.6, is that what it is? So 180,000, 190,000, is that fair? Is what you're asking for, what you think you're going to get? So that's 100 to each pension.
Yeah, the whole point is here to give the pensions more money. Why do we have to, we're not going to lose money everywhere else, why do we have to raise it? Is what kind of what I'm getting.
Well, because I'd like to see the general fund have more cash so that it doesn't have to do the tax anticipation warrants. That's the
And I'm looking at this also, where if we're going to raise taxes on people, I got to be mindful of that, because there's other around their towns who want to hit them with the water increase, the library sitting in with the tax increase. So we have to look at this at another angle too. So I get the money side of it, but there's also the political side, what our neighbors go for.
Right.
So there's other angles here that I totally understand, respect your side, and I get your side. We have to look at this too differently. Because what if my neighbors can't afford the library tax increase, our tax increase, the park districts, the schools are doing these taxes? If everyone does 5%, that's a quarter of your tax bill that's going to go up.
That's what I was thinking.
So, and I'm not reading it, it's kind of.
No, again, it depends on where people live and what school district and,
I live in a different school district than everyone else in the entire city council. Everyone else is a 130, I'm a 132.
Right.
My taxes are different.
A little bit different. Depending on where you live, they're all a little bit different.
Everyone here is 130. So that's what I'm saying, my taxes are different.
I would just like to say that at the last city council or finance meeting, did we not discuss that our auditor, Mr. Casper, didn't he suggest maybe increasing each fund by $100,000?
Yes.
And that's our auditor, and this is our CPA, and we're still going to go with this dream amount? I think we're acting irrationally.
I guess
Alderman Froster.
Sure, I apologize, everybody, I just wanted to understand, I have some other obligations to attend to, so I'm going to be stepping away from tonight's committee. But I do just want to say that I think a lot of us want to up a little bit the amount that we want to contribute to it. I'm certainly, obviously I'm not going to hear what else is talked about, but I am certainly up for a middle of the road, bumping it up a little. The way I feel right now is your recommendation versus the state recommendation on the police pension is only a $3,000 difference. That's what I'm for. Do that, and then the fire one is about $340,000 difference. I would certainly be open to increasing that. It might not be right down the middle, but I think an increase, and I know we could make this happen and find that, allocate those funds from other
So again,
departments.
I agree with all that.
That's where I'm at, but I really apologize that I had to step away.
So, all right, there was talk at the finance committee that raising the police pension contribution by $100,000. If you apply that same percentage to the fire based on, the total amount that we were going to give, it'd be another $61,000. So that would make the total increase $161,000 between the two funds. It's kind of in the middle. Well, it's way lower than what the dream amount is, but it's still more than what we were trying to do. So maybe we could consider that.
Alderman Bellato.
Me and Tyro broke here for a second and did the middle of the road. And I just want to, this is rough, we're not mathematicians here, but police, we went middle of the road between Dream and yours, not the state. Low to the high. Police would be 1.99, 1.9. Fire would be 1.2. Does that sound right?
Roughly, yeah.
Wait, can you say that one more time?
We did the math roughly, if we went from the Dream to Mr. Meyer's recommendation, if we middle of the road, right in the middle, the police would be 1.9, the fire would be 1.2.
Just 1.9.
1.99, fire is 1.2.
You're saying 1.99?
Yeah, that would be middle of the road. I did it quickly.
1.2. Yeah, I mean, it's split the difference.
Alderman, what did you say, Claire?
Gives you some money.
1.22.
You can't keep losing money.
No, not anymore. It's getting too low.
Then, can you clarify, or, I think it's just cutting in half, just make the statement.
I'd like to take a poll on that.
So what if we did, the 1.99 and the 1.22, we didn't raise the levy everywhere else, what would that do with like?
Well,
For next year?
again, we'd have to make assumptions, I'd have to rerun the numbers a little bit. Again, are we talking about we're gonna lock those in, or are we gonna let the county adjust those? So that factors into it as well.
How much of a loss could it be? We just raised the pension money. We raised levy just for the pension money, but didn't raise it for anything else. What would the loss then be?
Okay, let's just say we locked them in, and we raised it to,
Can I interject something while you're doing those figures?
sure.
Jeff, while he's doing those figures, you really want to be careful that you always levy to the max, otherwise that's 100, you'll never recoup that. Kind of like, they're taking the money out of.
Randy, I understand.
No, while he's doing the figures, I just wanted to say that if you don't
But
levy to
again,
the
Randy,
max.
I'm looking at this because the library's asking for 5%, the park district's gonna ask, the third ward can't afford a 25% tax.
No, it's not cumulative.
I'm talking, everyone else does it.
It's not cumulative.
But it's.
It's gonna be, everybody's tax bill is gonna go up, let's just say it's 3.3%. It's gonna be 3.3%, it's not
We can't afford a
25%.
5% water increase. I have to look at this, what my neighborhood can afford. So
I
I don't
agree.
wanna raise it that high, because my neighborhood can't afford it.
They're already
Or the gardens can't afford it.
I just,
We're the highest tax county in Cook County, the highest place.
right.
I don't agree with Governor Brown on anything. I agree with him completely on it.
Okay, wait a minute. One more.
No, I'm not any, I have to go to work.
Oh, okay, goodbye.
You're looking at about $300,000 of extra money going into the pension funds, which means $300,000 less going to the general fund.
And I just do think it's important to note that the tax increase, if we take, say, a 3%, and the school board takes a 3%, and everybody else takes a 3%, it's 3%. That's the,
I was dramatizing.
Okay.
It was very dramatic.
The other thing is people can afford a 30% water increase. I don't. I don't think they can afford a 3% tax.
I think they could afford a $15 water increase.
This is the reality. This is the reality of our
That's
nation.
Mr. Meyer's suggestion, if there's extra money, then you can apply that. And then,
But there never is, you know.
Well,
There never is though.
But if there never is, you're just putting yourself that
That's why
further,
we
that
don't
much
want
further in
to
the
do
hole in the general fund. And you're gonna run into situations possibly where people are getting half pay or whatever the situation may be. And then that's when the real tough vote is gonna come. It's easy to talk about this now and just say, oh, let's just give it to them. It'd be nice if we had that kind of money. We don't have that kind of money. Not today. Just saying.
You know, committee, I don't know, I feel like I'm talking to the wall. Our auditor suggested 100,000 in the police, was it 100,000 in the police, and 60-some thousand in the fire?
Well, that's what
Or 100,000 in the fire, that's 200,000. Is that something we could live with? I mean, I know it's,
Well, you'd be putting yourself in pretty much the same position you did last year, where you took money away from the general fund, about 100,000 roughly, because our projections here are saying, let's give the general fund another, 100,000 more to work with. Let's keep the pension funds happy, and about 100,000 more than what we got last year. If we do that, then yeah, we're going to take another 100,000 away from the general fund and give it to the pension fund.
but is that a recommendation that you feel we could live with? I mean, it's better than fostering Foster.
I think he's saying that we're gonna have to make that decision.
I'm going with my recommendation, and then if there's money left over, you can give it to them. That'd be my bet. That way, you're not restricting yourself.
All right. Should we take another vote? All in number
I just want to remind, I brought that up just a second before anybody else talked, we go middle of the road.
I'm sorry, what?
We go in the middle of the road.
You're going the middle of the road.
Just what Ira was just saying, middle of the road.
And that's 1.9.
Between the high and the low. Between the high and the low.
The high is 620,000. The low is, so it's 620,000 if you go high, so middle of the road, 310,000.
Roughly 310 is, or I would say roughly 300,000 is just rounding numbers
So
here.
middle of the road is 310, and Kasperick suggested 200,000.
I'd say take a poll on those, and
Take a
the
poll
middle
on
of
the
the road
two.
and what we got in front of us.
Well, I would be fine with that.
Well, I like that, so what's that?
All right, I'd like to take another poll.
100,000 more to the police and 61,000 more to the fire.
Does that sound fair?
100,000 in police and 60. Okay, I'd like to poll the committee, 100,000 in police and 60,000 in fire. Can I see?
I don't understand what that means. Is that the middle of the road?
Increasing what James has had on
That's what our auditor suggested.
It's not the middle of the road, it's less than the middle of the road.
It's less than middle of the road, yes.
But it's a good faith.
Can I see a show of hands again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
Is that 5?
All right, and then, because we have to come up with something, come on, guys.
And Alderman Cross just said middle of the road, so I'm
That's two
building
of
off
you,
of that.
that's two of you.
I'm saying, we have a whole middle of
I'm
the
middle
road.
of the road too.
Yeah, middle of the road.
6-5.
Take care of the day.
Well,
I'm trying to compromise.
Yeah, try to.
Again, you could always do this later if you wanted to. This
I mean, we're already coming up 161,000.
I am concerned because the fire pension percentages are going down instead of funding.
Kasperick, his recommendation was 100,000 each fund, I believe. It wasn't 100 and then 60 for fire.
No, I know.
And the reason is because we have a smaller fund and it's going away much quicker.
You're
So,
in the
I think Alderman Bellatto's recommendation is like 320, which, I mean, is middle of the road, it's great. I don't know, if 200,000 is a little less than that, but it's a little more than Alderman Holly's recommendation. That would be better, absolutely. We lost 105,000 last year, so that would recover that, but that's your decision. We have to live with it. I will say one thing though. I don't remember the exact percentage, but when it does get to under a certain point, the Department of Insurance is going to make sure that we're getting our money, and we don't want to get there either. I don't remember if it's 15% or 20%, but it's right around that area.
clean.
You can look at that.
It's clean. I think it's easy to explain to anybody. We're in the middle of the road between two recommendations.
Why do we have to go in the middle of the road? Why can't we go with what our auditor, who we pay money for,
Because it convolutes the
to
argument.
take his recommendation?
Right. If you want to
Our
levy,
CPA, who has also made a recommendation, and we're just all making our own recommendations.
it's middle of the road, it's
I
not
don't care.
recommendation.
Well, isn't that why we came to the meeting?
It is, but it's getting ridiculous, Nancy. First you were the high end, now you're the middle of the road? I mean, where are you?
It's called compromise.
Yeah, it's compromise,
Yes,
yes.
we're gonna
We can
compromise.
recite 1776 musical right now. You gotta give a little, we gotta give a little, in the middle of the road, everybody's happy and not happy at the same time.
No, I don't know,
That's compromise.
I don't know if everybody's happy in the middle of the road, that's.
You're not supposed to. When you negotiate, you're not supposed to be happy, you're not supposed to be sad. You're in the middle
Okay.
of the road.
So,
That's true.
Lukewarm.
Stranger Things too, we talk about compromise. They do.
The best part is compromise. We've come down from the green to middle of the road.
yeah.
Not 75%, to 50%, middle of the road.
Yeah.
So is that the recommendation that we are going to give to city council? Or are we gonna give two? Well, what good does that do? So we gotta go with the one.
Well, how would we, oh, so if we took it to city council with two recommendations, how would they actually happen at city council? How would we come to it? It doesn't work like that.
Again, I'll say it one more time. Give them what I mentioned, and then maybe we revisit this like a year from now, and we say, okay, how much money do we have in the general fund? We're gonna give a percent of that at that time. That way, you're just not, I don't know how many times I can say it, you're not gonna put yourself in peril.
All right, so I would just like to suggest a new middle of the road.
Okay.
Because Dave has recommended 1.8 to the police and 1.1 basically to fire. Tom has suggested 1.9 to police and 1.17 or something, or 1.6 to fire. So that's up.
Say it one more time?
1.16.
I'm sorry.
Tom is recommending 1. Right, Tom is suggesting, Tom has come up with some numbers, which would say 1.9 to the police pension fund, which is up 100,000 from Dave's numbers, and 1.7, right, to the fire, which is up 6. Excuse me, I'm wrong about that one.
We can do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1.1, no, 1.1.
Fire by 60.
6, right? Okay, 1.16, up from 1.10 to the fire.
It doesn't cover their loss from last year though. Right?
The 1.057 last year,
For fire?
Next year's
and
budget.
this is 1.16.
Yeah,
It's
right.
a difference of 103,000, is that right?
That's if we don't, again, if we freeze it, we don't cut it.
Yeah,
Right,
which
at
we
the county
have,
level.
that's an option for later. You said we are making that decision today, right?
Because you were on 1.057 last year.
Yeah, this would be 1.16.
Well, that's what we levied, was 1.057, what we got.
3,000.
Yeah,
Here.
103, right?
1.037.
We can lock it, we can't lock it.
Didn't we
Just did a poll.
We just did a poll.
Middle of the road.
In the middle of the
Going
road,
back.
one.
Right.
It's just the same.
Middle.
Or you say 1.16. That's your.
That's my
With a little extra.
I was not adding the 1.
Hey.
Okay, so, according to the Alderman one, the middle of the road one, the pole. So that will be the recommendation that goes to city council.
You know the numbers to put in?
Yeah, halfway between what I have and what the dream number is. That's what we decided on. That's the middle of the road. That's what
Yeah,
we're
that's,
talking
I'm
about.
going off the 2.18 at council.
Yes.
For fire. I think the 1.9 was what they asked last year. I think I convoluted the argument here. They only asked 218 at council. I wrote down 1.98, that was last year, she said. So, but I'm gonna get back into that. That's what I'm proposing.
So.
Yeah, let's not.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take the difference between the 2,183,000.
Between your, and between the 1.34 and 2.18, which should equal 1.99 and 1.22 thereabouts, because we just did it really quickly.
Right.
That's what I said, just to clarify. I'm not asking for lots here. No.
And that's what's voted on, correct?
Right.
I'll give you the exact, you know what, I'll get my calculator out and give you the exact amount.
Trying to, I'm asking for lots. I mean, that's right.
Okay, so the poll was to go with the middle of the road.
He's gonna give you the numbers.
Yeah.
Which is important. It's probably the most discussion we've ever had on tax collector. I'm gonna tell them, I just found you $80,000 with
Okay, the numbers I'm coming up with are police, 1,994,401. So it's 1,994,401. Fire, 1,223,468. So it's 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8.
The first one's 19.
1,994,401.
Yeah. That's what I, throw that as my proposal. That's what I said. First one. I'm not going to work on it.
So can we take a poll and agree on that?
I think that we did.
Well, we didn't agree on the figures that.
Just the exact same figures I said, 1.99 and 1.22.
About 170,000. 168. And the police are at about.
Okay, that's the recommendation that will go to city council.
250. Middle of the road one?
Say what?
Middle of the road.
Fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you can. And then next year it's gonna be worse.
Well, like I said, eventually.
Myers, thank you so much for coming. And
You have IMRS? 95% of what, that'd be nice. Right.
That's what the market is.
9/11? Yeah.
Will the final total still be 4.9?
Yeah, the total will be as follows.
Just making sure.
Yeah, so we're just gonna have to cut from some of the other areas that we had increased. Is there anything else you
Can you get one more?
Okay, wait a minute. Oh, I thought you were gonna speak. Okay. Can I have everyone's attention? Next thing on the agenda is a request by Moraine Valley Community College for a waiver of permit fees. And Carrie, I'm gonna have you.
Okay, all I gave you this morning, or this evening, excuse me, was the request from Moraine to waive $88,720 in permit fees for their project at their school on Western. There's a history on the second page of what permit fees were charged and what permit fees were waived over a period of time. This was prepared by Mr. Infante. There's a third page that shows how your permit fees are calculated for the different types of permits that were required. And then there's a fourth page, which was the invoice that the city sent. I'm not asking you to cut, I'm not asking you to add, all I'm asking you to do is make a decision so we can inform Moraine Valley how you want to proceed with their request to cut their, or waive the fee. Mr. Infante did send me the various permit requests or permits that were issued for the permits shown on the second page, but I didn't include that in your packet. I didn't think it was necessary.
I just wanted to point out on the page where it talks about their history of permits. It looks like when they came to the city, we waived one of them, but we made them pay the others, but the rest, they just stopped coming to the city for inspection or approval of anything. So I don't know if we get to vote on this. My recommendation would be not to waive permit fees because they didn't even bother coming to the city for any plan review. How do we know it's safe? How do we know it's done right? So
Well, it still has inspection.
So what is your recommendation?
Oh, but they didn't know, it didn't come for inspection.
No, they actually did have inspections.
Well, what about all these other ones? They couldn't find inspection records for remodel?
Yeah, I have no idea. Those, I just asked Mr. Infante to do a search backward to see what permits had been applied for by Moraine Valley and then what had been paid. He did provide me with a packet of permit applications to substantiate the ones that were waived. I mean, I have those, I only have one set of.
I understand, I understand that. It just looked like for some of the ones where we did not charge, and it says could not find inspection records, it just makes it seem that they didn't even bother coming to the city to let us know they were doing the work. They just did the work and didn't even get it inspected. And I believe, my understanding was the reason we found out about this was someone from the city saw them doing the work and we shut them down. So I think that's why they even came to get the inspection, was the city shut them down because they saw them throwing out drywall. Director Rita, is that the case from this?
That's correct, yeah. Somebody from the building department just happened to be going by the Lyric over there, right near the school.
So it wasn't that they
saw material being unloaded and stopped to see what was going on.
Thank you. So it wasn't they came in good faith to get an inspection. They were shut down by the city for not having permits and doing this work. So this whole rambling story, I mentioned it quick, was I would recommend not to waive the fees, is my opinion. Again, I don't know if I could vote on this matter on this one, but on the city council, I will be voting that they need to pay the permit fees because they didn't act in good faith to even get the permit.
Well, they did apply for a permit in March. They did come in, their architects sent in an application in March. Now, what happened from that point in time until August when or July, I think it was June, they were found to be doing construction without the permit itself. I don't know what happened in between, but they did actually apply for a permit. Now, what happened, I have no idea.
That's all.
And I'm sorry, all I know is what happened in August when they saw it. I don't know anything that happened prior to that. I wasn't part of that. Nobody reported to me on that.
And if I might ask, so our practice or history has been with not-for-profit institutions, hospital, et cetera, to fully waive these fees? That has been our practice? Okay, so
Yes, we did that for St. Francis in 2003. We waived the fee, and I feel that Lorraine Valley is a good neighbor. They purchased that building, they may purchase other buildings, their program is growing.
Working in a school district and other government bodies, I'm biased in this, but I do know, why would they have paid 50% back in 2011? It's not a full history. Huh? 2004.
8/24/2004, the first one.
50% would have been some kind of.
Oh, sorry, the one underneath that, 2011.
There would be some kind of compromise made there or something.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong one.
And I know on the park board, I was made to apply for permits, and you didn't have to at the time. I won that case, but for a parking lot at Hart Park. But I don't want to say there's a practice of waiving because the park district was asked to pay for permits for an open.
And what happened?
I believe we paid in some cases where it was small, and some we just did it because the court said we're a separate taxing body. The law changed recently for higher education because secondary education and primary education has their own inspectors. Attorney could probably clarify on this. I just know so we go through South Suburban Cook for building inspections for the high school. We bypass the local village of South Island and stuff like that.
High schools and grammar schools are exempt.
Yes.
They have their own building code that they must adhere to. Some instances, they have to cooperate with the local officials, but I think the colleges are different.
Yeah, the law, some stadium happened, I believe, in the north side, so someone tweaked the law where any major issues has to be brought before local authorities.
do we, I just like to know, do we know, what at least it costs the city to handle this matter? I mean,
Alderman Fairnold, I don't know. I haven't the slightest idea, because as I said, all I was able to obtain were the application for the permit itself, so some correspondence back and forth, and then at some point the work was stopped because no permit was issued, and then the work was allowed to move forward. They've completed the work. In August, at the time when they were issued the invoice, they requested a waiver. Now, what the cost of the inspections were, that would be something the building department would probably have to relate to you.
And I think the fees are based on a percentage, like 10% of the cost of the actual project.
5%.
Yeah, I just wonder what does the city actually have to go out of? And maybe there is no out-of-pocket cost to the city.
If the college would have requested some kind of waiver at the beginning of the process, we would have been bringing it to this committee for a decision at that point. So it's hard for any of us to answer this one because nobody knew about it. So whether they were it was inadvertent and they didn't know they had to come to us, or they intentionally said we're doing it, nobody can answer that.
Or somebody in the building department.
But again, any incentives, like you mentioned, the hospital and stuff, were all things that were brought to the council, debated and decided upon. And when we talk about a history, it's because it was brought. So we're at the point now where they said, okay, we would like to make the request. We're bringing it here.
Okay.
So
how about if we go middle of the road?
And I wrote to mention that before I left too. Let's go. I want to speak for Cliff. He did mention that, and I'll agree with that also.
Okay. So I'm going to take a poll.
You're getting good at this.
Okay, they requested $88,000. I mean, the permit fee was $88,720. If we reduce it to $44,360, can I poll and find out who's in favor of that? Oh, I'm so happy.
I got a secondary number here. Hold on a second.
You now have $44,000 extra dollars to get to your pension fund as well.
There you go.
That's been
I earned my fee tonight.
Finance, so you can, but,
Curious.
ultimate,
Hold it.
before you all go, I just want to tell you that in the past, the only people that got the detailed report of payroll and accounts payable were the finance committee. And then they would make a recommendation to city council. I have instructed Lori Brown, after we approve the accounts payable and the payroll, that she will send out detail of those reports to everyone. And then, so you'll have it before then. The other thing I want to ask is that if you have questions, you can either email me, you can call me. I don't want you calling Lori because she's overworked. So I will get an answer for you and I will get back to you right away, okay?
Okay, so it'll come separate?
I would like to talk on the phone.
Okay, it's gonna come separate than what Lori's gonna send out. I'm just gonna send out, as soon as finance is done, I'm gonna send out the pieces that you guys wouldn't normally see in the regular packet for council. So that'll be separate from what Lori will send out in the whole council packet.
Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have a comment, Chairman. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
I do. I appreciate it. The bills payable, I'd like to see those. Here's I've always been a finance and alderman, and then a few meetings between not being on the committee, I didn't notice I wasn't getting them. So I appreciate you sending them to me.
Oh, thank you.
It wasn't negative.
I can't take a compliment.
No, it's not a compliment.
She's like, what are you saying?
This was fun, we should do this more often. Comments back when we first got on board here, going to the appropriation every night.
Not on my committee.
That was Nancy and Tom and that Nancy and there's a bunch of us.
Are we recessed?
Okay, you're gone.
Yes.
Okay, accounts.
I was in favor of everything else, by the way.
Payroll for 12/1/2017 in the amount of $369,411.87. Does everyone look at that? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Motion by Fairwell. Second. Thompson. Motion carries. Accounts payable for 12/6/2017 in the amount of $389,672.27. Did everyone look at that? Yes.
There's a couple big ones, the trash, you guys saw that on there. There was a bill for the insurance, and then there's a little bit larger legal fee bill on there for $21,000. I didn't see anything really odd unless you guys had any other questions.
Could I just note that there was a question, I think, at the last city council meeting about the invoice that was paid for the trash collection. And I thought it would be maybe worth just saying that these payments are all within their contract. There's nothing unexpected here. It's what we expected, and it's savings from the previous.
It is,
Yes.
it's not, I don't know if it's uber substantial, but they are lower than what the other contract was. So I mean, per month, yes, for a year it adds up, but per month, I think the other one was like 100 and maybe 21, and this is like 110. So I mean, if you're looking for a $30,000 difference a month, you're not going to see it, but it is savings.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the accounts payable? Motion by Fairwell, second.
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. The last thing on the agenda is a resolution approving the renewal of a Class 6B tax incentive for Beggars Pizza, Goretto Brothers Holding at 12949 California. Is there any questions on that? Alderman Thompson?
They've had the first 2 years, right? So they're asking for another extension.
They're asking for their extension. Mark, is this, I just want to clarify, this comes up every time. Is this, they can extend it once, or can this go on?
These can be extended
forever?
as long as, yeah. As long as.
And did I
This is an extension of their existing original one that they got.
No, I know this is the original one, I just thought they got it, this would be, come back in 10 years again.
And I understand in reading the packet that the savings to them is something on the order of $10,000 a year.
Right.
Yeah.
They also have, I don't know if you looked all the way, they also employ over 75 Blue Island residents. They have 575 employees overall, 3 stores, basically warehouse and 2 stores in Blue Island.
And
sales tax revenue.
Yeah. So I would just like to say, so that it's understood, I'm going to vote against it because I love this company and I'm so glad they're in town. I think it's fantastic that they employ a bunch of Blue Island residents. And there's something we're all proud of, but they're doing well. We're asking everybody, there's a lot of talk here about how people can't afford everything, and I just can't see why we need to give them a $10,000 reduction. I just can't see it, so I'll vote against it.
All right, I'm gonna take, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
And I don't know, do they start their employees off with a minimum wage?
I actually believe they do. It's certified, they
Yeah, they're certified.
I thought they were
They start
higher.
with minimum wage.
I mean,
Didn't they say they were higher?
they might be.
Because they had stores in Chicago as well, so they had the higher, so they paid higher than the minimum wage.
Any other questions? I'm gonna take a roll call vote. Alderman Hawley.
We're voting yes to extend? Okay, yes.
Alderman Fairwell.
No.
Alderman Thompson.
No.
Alderman Beer.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a tie, and Alderman Osborne votes yes. Motion carries. Okay. Is there anything else? Okay. Okay, wait a minute now. Don't anybody move. Is the city council going to be meeting on the 12th, and then they're going to
Cancel.
cancel the 26th. So we won't have the finance meeting? Okay, so we'll,
Whatever contractual stuff that comes through that
Okay, great.
has to be paid, that's our contract.
Wait, is this a
We'll just come through again.
It's the warehouse. They have the warehouse.
alright, so then Lori, you and I will be on the 22nd.
No, we don't have to. Not that I don't like.
I know.
I think we have to meet, because the next meeting will be the 2nd of January, I think.
So we're gonna have to meet on the 29th. Okay, our next meeting will, the finance committee will meet on January 2nd. Is that okay? What?
After New Year's?
The first Tuesday,
What did
yeah.
I say?
I won't be responsible for whatever I vote.
We're on board that day. Really nice out there for meeting, but okay.
In regard, going back to the sanitation service, the reason that we had the measures as well with sanitation was because it was a large savings. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but
No, it wasn't, it was somebody coming up and saying, oh, they made it sound like it was gonna be 30,000 less a month. It wasn't gonna be, but the total savings was a lot. It wasn't just, they're like, we're still paying $110,000 a month, and we're still, yes, it still was, but it was like 125, now it's 110 a month, so it has gone down.
We're saving about $100,000 a year.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean,
It's
it's
big
significant.
savings per year, but you can't see it on a monthly basis. Wow.
Okay, so, the next finance committee meeting will be January 2nd. Have a motion to adjourn.
You won't? You won't be here either?
You're not
Ready?
Oh.
Not gonna be here either.
No.
Oh my God.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.